All right, guys, big business tomorrow night. UFC 317 as Ilia Topuria fights Charles Oliveira for the vacated 155 lightweight title. A lot to get to. I think this is the best pay-per-view of the year, one of the biggest, not only fights of the year, but deepest cards of the year. I feel like it's been a while since we've gotten a good card like this. So first, I just want to talk about how we got here. If you're a casual fan and you don't really follow the UFC so much, how have we got here? Ilia Topuria was the featherweight 145 champ. He wanted to move up to 155 to fight Islam Makhachev, who, of course, was the number one pound-for-pound fighter. The UFC doesn't want to do this. They don't want double champs. I think this is really stupid. I think it's a good way to build stars, a good way to get fights from people from different divisions, but they don't want to do this. Why don't they want to do this? Because if one guy has two belts, it makes him much harder for him to defend the belt as much. It makes it much harder for them to put together pay-per-views, so they just don't want to do it. So, Ilia Topuria vacates 145 title. Volkanovski fought Diego Lopez for that title, and he won it. Not cheap, but he lost that title, and so he kind of won that title back against someone who wasn't really the champ. Topuria then moves up. 155 is vacated. Oliveira is now fighting him, who lost his title, who already had this title, to Islam Makhachev. Makhachev is moving up to 170 to fight for that title against JDM. Now, getting into this fight, it seems to be the consensus. Everyone thinks Topuria is going to knock him out, and that kind of scares me, even though I agree with it. I just think it's the perfect matchup for him. I don't think the size difference is that big of a deal. And Oliveira is very hittable. He's always getting hit, even by guys like from Chandler. He gets hit, and he always seems to get knocked down. And the problem is Topuria is really good at grappling and wrestling and jiu-jitsu. So even if he knocks him down, he won't be scared to go to the ground with him. But like I said, every time I think there's an obvious bet, things always seem to go haywire. So that really scares me. But with that being said, let's get into the gambling aspect of the fights. And I think the first bet that obviously stands out is Topuria by KO. It's about minus 150. It's a clean bet. I think it's really good odds. You're getting a minus 450 favorite for almost pick'em, a little bit steeper than pick'em. And it's just hard to see Oliveira not survive this fight for 5 rounds. If Volkanovski couldn't do it, if Holloway couldn't do it, who those two are much hittable, much harder to hit, much less hittable. It's hard to envision a scenario where Oliveira doesn't get clipped. That being said, Oliveira can really hit hard himself. He's bigger than him. He's been in big fights like this before, obviously. And he has the most submission wins in UFC history. So this is kind of a really, really tough fight to handicap. But those, I think Topuria minus 150 is a really, really safe bet. One thing I noticed when looking at the Hard Rock app, I'm down here in Florida, that's the only app that we use that's legal down here, is that there are much more odds, much more fights available, I should say much more bets available than I noticed before. Specifically, you can bet on over-under on strikes landed, over-under on takedowns attempted. And so there are 3 bets that I'm eyeing that are kind of interesting to me. It's the over on both of the punches landed for Topuria and Oliveira. Oliveira is 27.5, Topuria is 35.5. And really this bet, they're both about even pick'ems, is really just about if you think this fight is going to go deeper into the second or third round. 35 and 27 punches is not a lot. It's not too much. If they get into a firefight and Oliveira can survive even 1 round, I think these numbers get hit. But the one that really sticks out to me is Topuria plus 200 over a half a takedown. He needs 1 takedown to hit that bet. These are all, I wouldn't suggest these bets, but these definitely stuck out to me. I haven't bet this way before. I think this takes a lot more research. You got to kind of see, because a lot of time guys will win, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they'll hit these numbers. But I think Topuria will get a takedown. I don't want to say he will, but for plus 200 odds, I really, really like that bet. It's certainly something I have my eye. Let's talk about the co-main event. Pantoja defending the title against Kai Kara-France. Pantoja is really one of the most underappreciated fighters in the entire UFC, in my opinion. He's super well-rounded. He's just in really the most boring division. Nobody really cares about the small guys. Kai Kara-France from New Zealand, I believe. He trains in Australia, but he's from New Zealand. Is a really, really good fighter. I think he got screwed against Amir Abazi in that last fight. And I think this is going to be a really, really good fight. But when I look at it, I think Pantoja is just going to break him down. I think it'll be a really good fight into the first 3 rounds. Hello, Murph, my cat. I think, though, Pantoja will break him down. And so I like Pantoja by finish plus 145. You get 5 rounds to do it. It's always just great betting on a champ, betting on a fighter that's good. It's just so much more enjoyable when you know you have someone this good. So I really, really like Pantoja here. Again, Kai Kara-France, I think will give him a great fight. He comes from a good gym, the same gym as Volk, the same gym as Adesanya, and Dan Hooker and a bunch of those guys. But I just think Pantoja is too good. He's too experienced. And so I really, really like him in this fight. I would take him plus 145 by finish. On the card, Brandon Royval against Josh Van in the third fight from the main event. This one is maybe my favorite bet of the night. Brandon Royval is an underdog. Another underappreciated fighter who's lost to Pantoja, who's lost to Brandon Moreno. And I know Josh Van is really good. He's really young. But Josh Van just fought like 3 weeks ago. Royval's been in camp. Royval has been in much bigger fights than this. He has pay-per-view experience. He has main event experience. He's fought Moreno and Pantoja multiple times. Very, very tough. And he's arguably the third best guy. I mean, it almost reminds me of like when there was Federer and Nadal and Djokovic in tennis. And it was them three and they would beat each other and then there would be like a gap. Even though he's maybe the third guy out of those three, he's still way better than everyone else. And I think this is just a prove it fight. Like if you bet on Royval and Van wins, okay, fine. But, you know, let him prove it. To get Royval as an underdog, I just love experience. Especially experience when the guy's not even that old. It's not like he's super old to have that experience. And still be in the prime of his career pretty much. I think this is really a no-brainer bet. So maybe I look foolish, but I really, really like this bet. Royval. Dariush and Moicano. This is a fight that was originally booked that got canceled when Moicano had to step up and fight Islam for the belt. This is pretty much a pick'em. I like Moicano in this fight. I just think he's way hungrier. I know that sounds cliche, but he just seems to really want to win. He seems to be... They're both 37. They know they're running out of time. I think getting the fight bonuses is almost as important as fighting for a title. I don't think either of these guys will get another title shot or Dariush will ever get one. I think he kind of lost that opportunity in the last couple fights. Dariush is probably more talented. He probably has better jiu-jitsu pound for pound. But when you look at I think just the hunger, I know like it sounds cliche, but I think Moicano... he just beat BSD. I think Benoit Saint-Denis is better than Dariush. I think Dariush is past his prime. And even though they're the same age, guys don't always age the same way. They have different body types. I think Moicano is more athletic. I think he's in better shape. And so I like him here. To pick him, I would just take him straight up. On the card, one of my favorite bets, probably of the entire card, is Terrence McKinney by KO. Now, I know he's very consistent. He seems to get knocked out, then knock out, then get a knockout win, then lose, then win. But Slavakos, to me, just is not the time. Is just like the typical guy that McKinney's got to knock out. I think this fight's going to be over in like a minute. And I know this sounds really, really out of left field and maybe kind of dumb, but I like betting on fighters who kind of recently had children. They fight extremely hard to get that bonus. They obviously need the money. And McKinney, I think in the last like 6 months, has had a baby. And I believe strongly in this theory that they fight really, really hard. It doesn't always work. Like Sean O'Malley obviously just lost, but that's because he fought Merab. So I like him in this fight. I think he's going to get the KO win. I would bet on him specifically by KO, and maybe even by KO round 1. This fight I have my eye on, Peyton Talbot opening up the pay-per-view against Felipe Lima. Peyton Talbot was a huge up-and-coming prospect who lost his last fight against Ronnie Barcelos, and so now has come back to earth and is now the underdog. Tough fight to handicap. I kind of just want to bet on Talbot, but I think he's going to struggle in this fight, and I just don't see, if Lima's a really good grappler, I don't see how Talbot could have gotten much better from that fight to this fight. So even though I want to root for Talbot and I want to bet on him, I would recommend betting on Lima here. I think he's a straight, safe pick, and I do think he's not nearly as good on the feet as Talbot, but I believe he still could just dominate him and kind of just wrestle fuck him for a win. Guys, so that's my breakdown for UFC 317. If you've gotten this far in the video, thanks for watching. Please hit subscribe. It helps me a lot. I'm going to be doing this for every pay-per-view going forward and hopefully some other cards as well. Check out my other videos if you're into movies, TV shows, nerdy stuff like that. Thanks for watching, and as always, I'll see you on the next one.